Who is a man according to God? Who does God call a man? The person God calls a man is not the individual that goes to church. You will never see that in the Bible. Who does God call a man? It's not the person that pays his tithe. You will never see that in the Bible. Who does God call a man? It's not the one that is busy with activities in the church. You will never see that in the Bible. Who does God call a man? It's not the one that is always singing, that has a ministry, that is in the choir, that is. We had that one, the Levite that passed by the guy, in the Samaritan, is a Samaritan story. So you never, that is not who God calls a man. It's not the man that preaches that God calls a man, no. Who does God call a man? Let's go back to that scripture in the beginning. It is Isaiah.
Isaiah 59, verses 14 to 16. Justice is turned back, and righteousness stands afar off. For truth is fallen in the streets, and equity cannot enter. So truth fails, and he who departs from evil makes himself a prey. Then the Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no justice. He saw that there was no man.
You see, because there was no justice, there was no man. So who is a man? The man that brings justice, the man that brings equity, the man that brings truth, the man that brings righteousness. Justice, equity, truth, righteousness. I have a series on truth. Nobody watches it. Yeah. People want to watch, more people, like 10 times more people watch series on deliverance. Satan. Prosperity.
Money.
How to become a millionaire. But those things are not there. Who God calls a man. Who God calls a man. The man of truth, man of justice, man of equity, man of righteousness. Those are the people God calls men. Because those are the body in the heart of God. People who spread those things are the people who are called, who are recognized by God and by heaven to be human beings and to be men. So we've got it all messed up and mixed together. So we are not measuring today ourselves and our accomplishments and our acceptance by God or in God's eyes by what standard God is using, by God's standard. Go back to that. We are measuring ourselves by human standards. You know what people use in my group, in my clique where I used to be? They use the number of people you have in your church to decide how man-pleasing you are, how a man of God you are. But God is using how much justice you carry out to decide what a man of God you are. We use how big your church building is to decide. We are using how much crowd you can pull through your through your gimmicks. How much gimmicks you can use to pull the most crowd. And God is saying, how much truth do you carry to the society? God is using that to judge you, but you are using sitting place to sit. Sitting capacity to judge. God wants to know how much righteousness are you establishing in the society, but you are using how much people obey you and listen to you to be your standard. We have just missed road. Missed road. If you look at Jesus, he was anointed by the Holy Spirit. Goes about doing good. Just doing what God wants him to do. If you look at the apostles, they were traveling from one place to the other, not even establishing churches, doing good. God used, for all these things, God used one word. Jesus used one word in the New Testament. He called it kingdom. All these are expression of kingdom. He says, seek ye first the kingdom of God. Which is part of his, which is also added righteousness, which is part of it. He put just one word, kingdom. Live for the kingdom. But instead of us doing that, we come up with our own definition. We disregard the one that will judge us. And at the end of the day, it's not my colleagues that we are massaging each other with how many sitters building church we have that will judge. We are not going to judge each other or ourselves when we get to heaven. He is going to judge all of us by his standard. Either you are a pastor, or you are a church member, or you are a church goer, everybody equal setting. How much did you promote the kingdom of God? How much did you advance the kingdom? How much did you stand for the cause of righteousness? How much did you stand for the cause of justice? How much did you stand and promote the cause of truth? How much did you stand for equity? And some of us are going to come like Ben and say, Daddy, God, but I had a job. That's if he's going to fix it, but thank God, let's pray that he's going to make it to fix it. And all of us. Then somebody is going to come like Jerry and say, but I have 2 kids or 3 kids.
Not my case.
Not your own case, eh?
Yes, something. That's why I'm here.
I reject it. Not be my portion. I'll just use it as an example.
Oh, back to sender.
Back to sender. And somebody else will come and say, but my culture told me that the most important thing was to get married and have a wife and 3 kids. And there are many churches, especially in America, they call it those kind of churches, is it marriage? No, family churches. So everything is about family. So in fact, if you go to those kind of churches, they will make you to think that if your whole life and existence on earth is just for family. No, I don't know if you get. There's people like that.
Yeah.
They don't think about kingdom or righteousness or just be a family. And when people died, he was a good family man. As if he's going to heaven to get family. You know, there is no family there because they are different. So it doesn't matter how you call it here, what you use to deceive yourself here, but when you get to heaven, it's still going to be standard. There will be no family. Family will not appear there because you have made it priority here. God will be faithful to his own standard. Oh, he had good kids. Oh, he was a good dad. When you go to people's, when they die, what they call that? Yeah, memorials, and when they give all the eulogy. When they give those eulogies, those are the things they're talking about. He was a good family man. And the kids will be saying, oh, he was a good dad. Oh, he was a good husband. Oh, as if that is what God is looking for. And he's dead though. They are saying those things as if that's how God will judge him. They are not even, nobody is saying that he lived for righteousness. He stood for justice. He was a fighter of truth. He was a fighter of equity. Those things are like strange. That's not for normal human beings. But it's still the same side that God will use. Yes, you should bring equity to your family too, and to the society. Yes, bring justice to your family too, and to the larger society. Yes, bring righteousness to your family too, and to the larger society. Bring truth to your family too, but don't just live for that nucleus family. That's egocentrism. It's against the nature of God. God doesn't just make you for you to live for yourself. It's all the opposite. So if we are not careful, because people don't come from the perspective of God. Everybody is using earthly perspective to measure their lives and to organize their lives. That's a problem there. Okay, let's go to the next page now.
We did not finish the last one.
Okay.
The one before.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, the reason why God is frustrated, irritated, and grieved. Men that have neglected his instructions and injunction to rule and reign on earth on behalf of God, doing nothing.
We did it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. To sin by silence when they should protest makes cowards of men.
I want that to sink in. Can you say it again?
To sin by silence.
No. Pronounce every word one by one.
To sin by silence. To sin by silence when they should protest makes cowards of men.
See, we are all sinning. Not just when we go to smoke or drink or to the party. And this sin of silence, or the plague of silence, is one sin that we don't recognize as sin. But it's the sin that God was identifying in Isaiah. Because you didn't cry out. You are quiet. You are not crying out. For justice, for righteousness, for equity, for truth. That is the sin of silence. And you want to tell me that our Christianity and our life in general, I mean, it's all about this sin. We are all wallowing in this sin of silence. In fact, some churches have made the sin of silence a virtue. In fact, it has become a policy in some cultures just to be silent. They are not familiar with raising your voice against injustice, raising your voice against unrighteousness. That's why I didn't find a man to say give back, to say restore, to say stop it. And so God himself had to raise up his own voice for himself. That's what that whole passage is about. The sin of silence. When something is wrong in the society, when there is no justice, no righteousness, no equity, no truth, and you are silent, and you say you are okay, at least I'm not the one doing it. But you are committing the sin, even greater sin, because your silence, you are not the one doing it, but because of your silence, or thanks to your silence, those evil are prospering. The sin of silence. When we are supposed to be going out to protest against issues, we become silent. We don't just become cowards of men, but we walk our own way. We depart the path of heaven, righteousness. We are not just not managers of the earth, but we are irresponsible to be managers, supposedly managers of the earth. We neglect God's passion. We tell God to go off with his own burden. We tell him off. We tell him it doesn't matter. He doesn't matter. His instructions don't matter. The sin of silence is a terrible sin right there. Let's go. And I have a whole series for people who don't know it on YouTube. It's called The Plague of Silence. It's all about that sin of silence. Yes, please.
The factors that cause grievances in the heart of God: satisfied, dissatisfied.
So this is the whole another section we're going into. So what are these factors that really break God's heart? Yes, go ahead.
Next. Factor number 1, causes of grievances. Next. Whenever justice to ordinary men, widows, orphans, disadvantaged, poor, and the general mass is delayed or denied, that leads to God's frustration. And
Beautiful.
God laments, where is man?
Where is a man?
Where is a man?
Can you believe it? Read that thing again.
Whenever justice to ordinary men, widows, orphans, disadvantaged, poor, and the general mass is delayed or denied, that leads to God's frustration.
Stop. Now let me tell you what Christianity is supposed to be about. Church is supposed to be about. Church is supposed to be about a community of people united in God for God's passion. United to accomplish and bring to pass God's desires, which is order, justice, truth, equity on the earth. So these are God's people committed to bringing to pass his body, his heart's body. You remember Jesus talking about the greater matters of the law when he was talking about tithe? And what was he telling the Pharisees? They neglected the greater. These are the things he was talking about. Equity, love, loving kindness. But today we are repeating the same mistake of the Pharisees. Greater matters of the law, we don't want to talk about. In today's churches, every Sunday somebody will talk about tithe and money. Every Sunday. But you tell me, you show me one church, not just every Sunday, but one Sunday a year, where their monthly theme, or what they call it, pillar, or what they call it, the month topic will be about equity. Tell me that church. Or will be about justice. Tell me that church that the topic of the month is justice to the disenfranchised in society, or truth, or righteousness even. The greater matters of the law, we just neglect it. As if God doesn't even have any say in our affairs. But what is church supposed to be? Church is supposed to be all about a group of people that are redeemed by God to accomplish his will on the earth, that will be done on the earth as it is
done in heaven.
Okay, so what does that mean practically? That means that this group of people, let's say we are 100 people who are a church, we are united by the burden to bring about justice. To all men. That our determination, the reason why we are here as a church, is that no human being will be and live in the same society as us, because we are here, that will suffer any kind of injustice whatsoever. Either they are orphans, or they are poor people, or they are anything, or they can't go to school, or university is cheating them, or the ladies are being raped, anything. That is what church is supposed to be all about. A community of people, God's people, committed to God's heart and God's body. So among us, we make it our issue. That's what church is supposed to be about. Activities of the church are not meant for the church itself. Activities of the church are not meant to just concentrate on how good we can sing, or what equipment we bought, or what drum we beat, what Yamaha we play. But I have been in the church I've been experienced so much that I know for sure, I can almost guarantee you that most churches in the world, those are the matters that maybe if not the 90% of their activities are all occupied by what building, what you are sitting, what aircon, what lighting, what
musical
instrument. That's what we're preoccupied. So God is sitting down in heaven and thinking about your musical instrument. God's people, God's body. Why God is thinking about justice, the greater matters of the law. That's why I'm thinking, I always keep on asking, do you think there is hope? Me, I will still keep on doing my own day-to-day, no. But do you really think that? Because, I mean, people are so far away from where I'm talking, where I'm here right now. I mean, it is such a different world. It's like from heaven and earth. How people are far from God. That's why we read yesterday, who is as blind as my servant? Who is as deaf as me? So church is supposed to be all about bringing justice to all men in the society. A church should be saying there should be no widow, no single widow in my vicinity and in my environment that should be neglected. Justice must be brought to every widow in this nation. Justice must be brought to every man and woman. There is no orphan that must suffer without justice. There is no disadvantaged person that is deprived of justice. And there is no general mass people to whom justice should be delayed or denied. And I tell you right now, I might not start a church when I go to Nigeria, but I'm going to start a movement by the grace of God. That what is going to unite us, we go together, is not going to be the drum we beat, or the Yamaha we play, or the building we meet in. What's going to unite us is going to be honesty.
Yes.
God's priority.
That's it.
And that's when we become people of God. That to me is church. So when this is what defines, for me, this is what defines a Christian. Because that's what God is using to define them. We better be on God's side fast. But some people now are defining other human beings by the amount of salary you get. For me, it doesn't matter. I don't care. For me, some people are defining, in fact, pastors are defining themselves and their success and their status by how big how big their offering is, how big their church is. I mean, just like a CEO, somebody who is not saved. But heaven is defining all of us by the same parameter. Pastor, no pastor, how much do you fight for justice for all men, orphans, masses, poor, disenfranchised? That is when you begin to live. Those are the people God called men. All others, they don't even exist in God's eyes. They are just biomass. They are there, they are just human beings, but they are not men. But when there are no people like this, you see what that leads to? God's frustration. And God keeps on lamenting. Will I have a man in this town? Will I have a man in this city? You know, God will say, I have a man in that city. Whenever God says something like that I have a man in that city, he's talking about these things of justice. He's not talking about the size of. If you look in the Old Testament, when he said, I have a man in that city, none of them had the church. None of them had crowd. But they had justice, truth, equity, and righteousness. What a beautiful life. What a beautiful life. So if I'm therefore going to be a billionaire or a millionaire, I know exactly for what. If I'm therefore going to be educated, I know exactly for what, to have power, to be able to bring about justice, truth, equity, righteousness. If I'm therefore going to be famous and popular, I know exactly now for what. Is to bring about and facilitate and promote justice, equity, truth, righteousness. What a beautiful life. So I do everything just for that. And so I might become a political figure. Why? so that there will be justice, equity, truth,
Righteousness.
That's what it means to live for the kingdom. That's what it means to seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness. So, can you imagine somebody living for this from first day, understanding this, and just living purposefully like life is clear for you. There is no ambiguity. You see everything clearly. But when you are buried in that culture that says you must be married, you must go and get salary, you must do this, you must have children, you must have popularity, you must be praised, then you are lost. You are lost in the. You are deceived. That's why we must always judge everything from His perspective. Go ahead. That's factor number one. 2, I think.
Yeah. No, yeah.
What?
Justice is the foundation of any society.
All right.
Yeah. When that falls, nothing else stands.
Ooh, look at this. That's like, this one is like Nigeria for me. Oh. This house, with the one where I see, so. This one. Now Nigeria, they remind me of.
This one is fine, sir. Compared to the ones that collapsed in Nigeria. This is still.
No, I'm saying it's like my nation.
Yeah, it is.
It's like the whole country. My nation is looking like this right now to me. Because when justice is denied in a society, or when justice is out of the society, justice is the foundation of any society. When that falls, nothing else stands. So my appeal to everyone that's watching me today is this. How many movements, pressure groups, social groups, NGOs, is this message going to inspire us, all of us, to start? You personally. How much voice is this going to give you? I started a movement less than a year ago called Movement Against Deception in the Church. Then a few months ago, Citizens Movement Against Cabal. We just started giving ourselves, empowering people to have voice and boldness. Most testimonies I've received and most letters I've received have been about one thing. What you are doing, Pastor Sunday, has emboldened us. Most people said that. Most letters, it's all about, we now have courage to stand and speak. So we are giving voice to the voiceless. And when you give voice to the voiceless, they fight for what is right. Righteousness comes. Justice comes. Truth comes. Equity reigns. So because we give voice to people, and thanks to social media, people just start talking. Can you imagine that almost every pastor in Nigeria now is responding? I told you that Ayo Oreji Fiafo spoke about me, about what I'm doing. It's a big crisis. Everybody has to comment. Then now Bishop Adeboye was speaking about Pastor Daddy Freeze. And you know Daddy Freeze, he used to speak for years. He's been speaking for years. But he's not recognized because he's a secular guy. That's what they call him. But when he got me on his platform, he had the passages. So he started using biblical ground now argument. He said he used to speak before, but now he had the biblical arguments. He started speaking with another favor and authority. Now that the priest is like the voice for God's standard and God's truth on tithe and offering in Nigeria. He has become the voice, the champion for this fight. He was talking before, but since we started this game, just a few months ago, I did the interview for him. I don't know. Yes. Was that what month was that?
Last month.
August,
yeah. September.
It was September. Yes. But between September and now, the whole country is shaking. How about this thing? You see, justice. in the church. Let's start with that one, little one. So my own plan, just for you to know, is that by the grace of God, I will start 10,000 first. When I talk about NGOs, pressure groups, civil society, people just say, why? Because I need platform for justice. I'm not a particular about church. I'm particular about justice. If a church is not fighting for justice, truth, equity, righteousness, it's not a church for me. And if I don't call myself church, but I'm doing this, that is church for me.
That's absolutely. Absolutely.
Because the church itself is supposed to be the foundation and pillar of the truth. But this is even more holistic. Truth, righteousness, equity, justice. That's kingdom. And kingdom is greater than the church. Kingdom is more than the church. So that's why I'm not bothering. People say, oh, he's going to start church in Africa. I'm not bothering about church. Look what I'm bothered about. So my own life challenge is that before I die, 1 million NGOs must be in Nigeria.
Yes.
Fighting for justice, equity, and now you're getting it better now. I've said that phrase before, but now you are getting the idea where that is coming from. Bringing equity to everyone, justice, righteousness, and truth. 1 million of that. By the time I'm done with that, I'm ready to go to heaven. Because they will be fighting, and it's not going to be me micromanaging them all. Everybody will know what they are doing. Just influence them. I've influenced Daddy Freeze, let him be the champion. Let me influence thousands more like that. Let them be the champion. Let them not even remember me. But let righteousness reign. Let truth reign. Let justice reign. Let equity reign. And I'll be fulfilled. I'm dreaming of a time when the church will now be defined by these things rather than by the amount of seats you have in your building. I'm dreaming of a time when this will be the standard that we use to decide who a man of God is rather than how much crowd he gathers. I'm looking forward to a time when a church and a denomination will be judged and be rated by how much equity, justice, truth, justice they are spreading all over, righteousness they are spreading all over the society, rather than how many kilometer by what kilometer, or mile by what mile their territory is. I'm not sure it will happen in my lifetime, because I think we are just too far away from God's standard.
He's able. God is able to do it.
Let's continue.
Can I
Yes, please.
Is there anything that we can do about electricity in Nigeria, because it's injustice for Nigeria?
Yes.
Is there anything, because it's sabotage?
Yes.
Nigeria is able to produce it, but people
Yes.
are sabotaging it. Is there anything we can do?
Right now, by the grace of God, you are pulling my leg to talk, but God is not allowing me to leave Ukraine, and God is not allowing me to be able to access my resources and my opportunity. But I have connections, and I know people all over the world. Like, you people know that I sit on the same board with Bill Gates. I sit on the same board with Richard Branson. I sit on the same board with Warren Buffett. I sit on the same board with Bill Clinton. All kind of people you want. Carlos Slim. These are people I know. But I cannot, I'm just here sitting down. Because there is time for everything now. Okay. But by the grace of God, with all of humility, I can handle that question. I can raise the $50 billion needed to fix that problem. But first of all, I think what God is doing is that God is not releasing me to go, because if I go now, they will kill me before my time. And I will not even be able to get there. So, but if the word and this message doesn't go fast and become viral, God is not going to delete me. Because it must become citizens movement, mass movement. Then I will be secured. But right now, if I go now, even those same citizens that I want to set free, they are the ones fighting for their slave masters. Their slave masters might not even say anything. But the same people I was supposed to set free, they are the ones who will cage me and kill me on the behalf of their, to please their slave masters. You know, the slaves themselves will be fighting for the people holding them in captive. What is the name of this black American, what's her name? The black American, they want to put her in $20 now. The lady, the woman, the black, the one that, no, that said a lot of,
Under the rail.
that set a lot of slaves free. They want to put her in $20.
Like she brought slaves from underground. I forgot her name, it just slipped my mind.
Okay, this American, black American lady, look into it in the something. Yeah, she's the most famous black American during slave trade. She's like Douglas, like one who Frederick Douglass was. She was the woman in that sense. So she said, I was able to single-handedly as a woman set free 1,000 slaves. You can look for the quotation. I set free 1,000 slaves. I could have set free another 1,000. Oh, yes. Harriet Tubman, yes. Harriet Tubman. Now, the reason I could have set free another 1,000, only those other 1,000 didn't agree that they didn't know they were slaves. If I could convince them that they were slaves, I could have been able to set them free. But I was not able to set them free because I couldn't even get them to realize that they were in slavery.
She had to come with her for them not to turn back.
Yeah.
She would like them to follow
To follow her. She would carry gun and say, you are a slave, follow me. To lead them to freedom. Because they were going to run back to slavery. So she had to say, I will shoot you if you want to run back. And that's what I'm saying. I am in a state now with Nigeria. People who are attacking me are not even the GOT directly, but they are devoted, devoted members who I am setting free, who I am trying to set free. They are the ones coming after me. So God is holding me back until this word. There is a wisdom in what God is doing. I was not appreciating that wisdom of God before. I was just seeing my pain. But now I'm seeing God's wisdom. Yes. And I think God will help me to make this message go viral. Yes. And when that happens, then God will now say, come. Because when I'm able to get out of here, you don't even know the resources we are going to be able to control. Money, don't ever think. That's why another problem is that right now, I must be able to think, raise up people who have projects, who already see what they can do and what they can bring about. They already have a dream. But if I bring money and people don't have dream, I will just kill them. They will just, they will just be using money and they will perish because there is no vision. People perish without vision. So right now, when God is not allowing me to access money, so that I will raise people up with who already have dreams. So money will not be an issue when I'm out. I'll be able to supply them any amount they need because they're already doing it without money. They already have the vision. And they're already committed to vision even without money. I don't know if you are getting it.
Absolutely, yes. Sure.
Is there a way of bringing solar panel cheaper so that the common man can buy?
No, you have not watched Aaron's message. No. Aaron's has a whole program. Okay, when you finish, go to your room and look for Aaron's, this guy who spoke to you, and plan on electricity. He has
Facebook
request. He has just to go to internet and say he has a whole plan, and I know the amount it costs. We ourselves, we can bypass the federal government and buy this thing for every state and supply. I know how much it costs. It's my problem. So I don't have problem with that on the money side. But Aaron's knows the people who can supply independently for every state. And I know how much it costs buy for every state in Nigeria, and I can access the money. That's what I'm saying. We have gone through, bypass all that is what, that is already, for me, I can do it by the grace of God. Just for you to know how much, who you are sitting before. I have the opportunity. You say, God, this God there is so powerful. Yes. God is making me is stripping me of my possibilities. It's isolated me from my resources. So that just without anything, I don't know, I am doing everything I'm doing without even anything. Meanwhile, I have everything. I don't know how to do that, how to say that. But there is a wisdom in that also. Because my faith shouldn't be in the physical things I have. My faith should just be I'm just with God alone. So God is showing me myself that, you see, I have isolated you from everything, from all your resources, and yet I'm building a community around you. I'm building a family, a movement, a worldwide movement around you. This is me not spending $1. I'm not on television, I'm not anywhere, I'm not even paying for anything, I'm not even doing anything. Just sitting there every day and looking at my iPad. But if you know what I know about me and what I have, I can be on television 24 hours a day and be paying for it in every continent. But God stripped me away from that, because if I do that, it will be artificial. It will not be generic. It will not be what God brought. It will be what advertisement brought. I don't know how to. It will not be people who are hungry. It will not be people who are desperate. It will not be people who really need it, who are ready. It will just be the noise. It will be all kind of birds coming in. It will not be a selected, desperate soul. It will just be people who want to follow popularity. I don't know if you get it.
Very true, very true. Very clear.
Okay, for example, if you go to Facebook now and look at the live broadcast of Anita Bynum, 20,000 people might be watching, or 2,000 people, or 10,000 people, or TDJs. But he never reads the names of comments. He never even knows. They are not forming a community out of them, just a crowd. I would have been the same. But he will never know you. He will never, just crowd. You are nobody. Because why is that I am equipping them, I'm wishing them well, I want to make them people, but they don't come to hear me. But they go to the popular names they see on TV. That's how humans are. Humans go to what reigns. They don't know what is behind it, or they just want to go to where the noise are. So these are fake. They are not ready. They are not the ones who are desperate. But God wants to use the people who already been purified, who already, I don't know if you are getting it. I would have used the money and the resources to attract the wrong ones. The ones that will later on, are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
Then I will not even be able to figure out the heart of the men and the right ones. I will be confused, because there will be 10,000 of you. I will not even be able to see you. I will not be able to know who has the heart, who is ready, who is not ready. So, my deprivation and my loss and my limitation and my humiliation, because it's a humiliation for me.
It's purposely designed by God.
Yes.
That's what the time has said.
Yes. I see that my humiliation and my pain, my sorrow, my humbling is for my own good too.
Hallelujah.
But even better still, is for the good of the kingdom. It's because God's wisdom is higher than my wisdom. And it's because God doesn't want me to use human efforts, human methods to fight this war. It's because God will not allow me to wear the war dress of Saul, or was it? What do you call him? The garment of Saul. You remember David? Saul was about to give him that his war dress.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
The armors. Yes.
Yeah. Because that, he will not give God that glory. But God would like to get his own glory just with stones. Ordinary.
Yes.
So he's even stripping me of my own resources that I already have. So that it will not be because I have this or I did this. It will just be because he did it. Then these people now that are now being discipled with me now, when there is nothing, no stimulant. If I had been having the way my heart is, I wouldn't have allowed any one of you to even buy your ticket. I would have bought the ticket for all of you to come, the way my heart is. But what God is making you to pay the price so that I might see everybody's heart. And then when I'm ready to go, I will know exactly people who have paid the price of sacrifice, but who are not there for selfish gain. Then they will be protecting me. And they will be able to run with the vision. I'll be able to trust them with the destiny. When the money comes, they are the ones to be trusted. They are the ones who will not kill you, who will not betray. I don't know if you are seeing the depth of this.
Yes, sir. Definitely, sir. Yes, definitely, sir.
God wants to take the glory.
Yes, yes, yes.
Just for a second, please.
Don't worry. I'll give you.
You are not incarcerated, but you are a hen meant to hatch some eggs. Or the eggs are mature for delivery. That's why what is happening in your life. These are the eggs, and they need to be hatched. There must be some temperature that will make the eggs ready for delivery. That's why you are here today.
Yeah, because if not for the incarceration, you will never know me.
Yes.
Somebody asked yesterday, where were you? I think it was Benita. Yeah. But I've been here for 20 something years. You know, I've been a big guy in Christianity for a long time. The first time Adelaja was preaching for me here was 10 years ago. No, 12 years ago. Adelaja was my main speaker in the church. I've been speaking in the United States like 20 years ago. United Nations, 10 years ago, sorry. 10 years ago, I've been speaking in United States Senate. I've been around. I've met with the United Nations Secretary General, one-on-one, being hosted by him. No, pastors don't do those things. Pastors are not hosted by United Nations Secretary General. All the ambassadors in United Nations have gathered to listen to me. You know, I've been around. But you ask, where are those people that were following me those days? Because they were following me like a superstar. They were not ready to go through the rudiments of training. That's not what they are about. They are about clapping. Even most of them, when they begin to really hear my training, my teachings, what I stand for, they say, he has backsliding. They want the flashiness. There is a program on TBN in America they call Praise the Lord or something. Yeah, Praise the Lord. They used to fly me in every month to speak for them. Not the local every state. I'm talking of their main offices. There are people they call Jan Crouch and Paul Crouch. They were my friends. I stopped going there when they wanted me to be raising money. I'm not just for that. I'm not like that kind of guy. I don't raise money. I don't, I cannot. I'm too, they think I'm just normal, like any one of them. to be, they go there to do marathon of money, everything. So that's when I stopped going. And I stopped going to America altogether because I saw that they were all about money. What's wrong with you? You who are sick, I don't need you. You don't need me. Yeah. I stopped going because, I don't want to compromise my values. Yes. You can't. So I've been around, but God's wisdom incarcerated me here so that I will get to know you. Yes. So I'm not following what other people are following. I want to follow this stuff here. Truth, righteousness, justice, and equity. So that's how we're hashing the eggs. So people, for example, I see people on Facebook now. I go on Facebook and I see, like, we are having broadcast now. Maybe we're having 100 people or 200 now. I don't know. Huh? 450. Do you know my countrymen, people who don't even speak English, they are speaking Yoruba, they will be having 7,000 people at a time. And you know what they are talking about? They don't even know who is watching. They don't even agree. They don't know nothing. They're just doing, your enemy who is against you will fall down. Somebody will die. Something will happen to them. And my people, I never knew my people are so gullible. If I knew that Nigerians were gullible, I never knew the Yorubas are as gullible. But they happen to be the most gullible in terms of religion. So 7,000 Yoruba people speaking Yoruba, they don't even speak English. They will be studying there. And these are people living in America and Europe and all that. And they're just doing things that I'm even ashamed I'm even ashamed to even hear what people are talking about. But when somebody then came to me and said, Pastor Sunday, we have so few people watching you live now because all these people are, 7,000, 10,000, 13,000, 20,000. And you are only 400, 500 people are watching you at the time. I said, but the difference is that there is no human being, not of those people, is doing what I'm doing though. Because they are not forming a community of personalities. Because, okay, the man is speaking, 7,000 people there, he's not even reading, he doesn't even know them. It's just the crowd there. And then nothing follows, no follow-up program, no molding of those people. They are not doing the same. He doesn't even know them, who came, just the number. But in our case, we have DSA family. Yes. In every country, in every city, everywhere. And these people are changing something. But in those cases, they are coming to be blessed. They are coming to receive the curse to be removed. And the wish to be chased away. And the wizard to die. And the fire to go back. And all those kind of things. Those are what they are coming for. Enemy to fall down and die. And prosperity and money to appear somewhere. But these people are being trained. So it's different. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Yeah, so in that case, it's not just a crowd. It's like a stadium. But nobody knows each other in the stadium. Even though it's big, it's 100,000 people there maybe, but nobody knows each other.
You are not the main player,
You are not a main player, but here they are players. So, justice, so we should be defined. My goal when I go to Africa is that we are going to be defined. I want to be defined. Nigerian Transformation Project, we call it, by how much equity we bring to the society. Now, I'm going to do a lot of infrastructural projects. And, like, for example, I just told people one, and people were thinking that this guy has lost his mind. I said I'm going to build a ultra-modern hospital in every state. And people say, you know how much that's going to cost? One is going to cost at least $1 million US. or 10 million US dollars, 20 million. I said it doesn't matter how much it costs. This is what I'm going to do. You like or believe, you like or you don't believe, but I am going to do it. Because I know I don't have challenge. The only challenge I might have is to have people, trustworthy people. But money, don't forget about it. That one God has resolved. For me, I don't have money challenge for anything I want to do. Now, but when I said that, that is mind-blowing. The whole country for 50 years I've not been able to build one. And I want to build it every state. But that is even nothing compared to what I'm planning to do. That is just one out of 100,000 projects that I have. I have 100,000 projects in my computer there. Yeah. What I have for Nigeria. These are transformational projects. But that is not what I still want to be known for. Even though I'm going to have 100,000 projects in the country before I die, it will happen. But those 100,000 projects, they will make Nigeria in the first 10 countries in the world. But still, that is not what I want to be known for. What I want to be known for are righteousness, justice, truth, equity. Finish. I want to change the value system of my people, that my country and my people will become people known for justice. Africans, Nigerians will be known for righteousness. They will be known for equity. They will be known for righteousness. That is the only thing. I want to be able to change and mold the value system. So you know what God is doing? God kept me away from the money, but allows me to still be able to talk. Because that's what matters to him. That's the most important thing for him. He kept me with where his heart is. You know, he said, where your heart is, where your treasure is, see, this is his treasure. So he left me with the most important things. So I'm talking, I'm releasing those things. Every day I'm talking, I'm releasing those things. Because when that is spread enough, then the mundane things like money and all those rubbish will come and join us. Okay, let's continue. All right, so let's see this. It says,
justice is the foundation of any society. When that falls, nothing else stands.
When justice is falling, when justice falls in any society, we don't have any other thing. That's why I don't want to be known for hospitals and things like that. I want to be known for justice, equity, truth, and righteousness. Okay, let's go.
Men who know God stand in defense of justice. They don't hide behind their pulpit when justice is ridiculed in their society. They become the moral conscience, the guidance and custodians of justice. Not simply in the four walls of the church, but in the society.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm going to read it so that you really pay attention. Now, men who know God, you are going to be identified and known by some features. When you know God, one thing will stand out in you and about you. When you know God, you will stand in defense for the youth, for the widows, for the orphans. That's why everywhere in the Bible, God is always talking about widows, orphans. Yes. What is trying to tell us? Justice. Fatherless. Why is he trying to do that? Justice. So when he talks about offering, tithe and offering, he's saying give to the widows, fatherless. It's all about making justice available to them, to the disenfranchised, to the poor, to the weak. God is. If you know God, that feature of God, you will manifest it. You will display it, because that is what God stands for. So there is no way you will know Him and not reflect exactly who He is. So if you want to know somebody who knows God, look at their position for ordinary people. So somebody was writing a comment the other day and said, Pastor Sunday, you are different though. You are not collecting offering, this your thing. You are only saying which will empowering us. But we are used to something else. So they are only taking from us, but you are empowering all. Every one of us can be like you are. You are giving your power away. You see, they saw the they started seeing the difference. But that's how you know someone who knows God. Though. But in my country today, some people are also writing me and said, I don't care if the power Chris and Joshua are using is not of God. I don't care. I just want to follow them because it's working for me. So people in our country now, people are not even putting, if you put 10 criteria, justice will not even be anywhere there. Even if it is 100, it will not enter. Even if it's 1,000 criteria why a man of God is a man of God, justice will not be one of them. That is the way it is for my people right now. It's supposed to be number one.
No value system.
You see? No value system. So for you to know, if you want to know a man of God, a man of God, it's someone who knows God, you will judge him and you will know him by his fight. For me, I'm going to say something that's going to surprise you. For me, people like Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, all those people, they are more men of God though than these our GOs though. God, me I go use God's standard though. Me I don't go use how many crowd though. And people might say they are unbeliever, they are not born again, they are Catholic. Me, I don't care. If I see justice there, if I see justice there, now with them I go pitch my tent though. I'm going to join this one that the thing I go look for. So if you want to look for men of God and how much men of God people are, see how much they are fighting, how much energy and effort they are fighting for ordinary people, powerless people, disenfranchised people. How much effort are they putting in trying to raise ordinary, weak, defenseless people up? How much effort are they putting in trying to make them to really stand on their feet? You know that Samaritan, regularly they would have called him an unbeliever. In fact, some of the people still think he's an unbeliever. But Jesus, he bypassed the priest and the Levite and said, this is the one who is going to heaven now. And he didn't get the Lord, he didn't confess the Lord as his Lord and Savior because he was not even a Jew. But Jesus said he's the one who is going to heaven. Because they came to Jesus and said, what should I do to go to heaven? He was saying, love your neighbor. Because he said, I've done all the other commandments. Okay, go and love your neighbor now. Then he said, go and do likewise, and you will live forever, eternally. So only somebody who behaves like the Samaritan will live eternally. Because the question was, what should I do to get to heaven? So he said, you want to go to heaven, go and behave like this Samaritan. But then don't behave like the Levite because he's not going to heaven. Don't behave like the priest, he's not going to heaven. But in our churches today, they tell you that for you to go to heaven, the only thing you need to do is to confess. Have you recited the prayer? Have you repeated? If you shall in your heart and confess with your mouth, it's one place. So that is just the way Romans one time. We are using that as our criteria. That's one that is more comfortable for me. I don't need to do anything. I just believe in my heart and confess with my mouth and repeat, and then leave it, and I just be religious after that and go to church. But Jesus said, go and do likewise, then you will live. May I hear Jesus? So, at another place, because Jesus is the Lord and Savior, he's the one who knows better than even Paul. Yes. Because then when Jesus also said, I was naked, me, I was the one who was naked though. I was hungry. Now actually the demand though, he said, you didn't feed me, or you fed me. The ones who fed him, he put them on the right hand side. The one who didn't, he put them on the left. And that was what now decided who was going to go to heaven or hell. Because the ones who didn't feed him, they went to hell. He said, go and put them in darkness. and eternal judgment in hell. So me, that's what they tell me, that salvation, confess not enough. Oh. These are two examples of Jesus. Now Jesus himself, they talk will not be apostle. One, they say go and do like the Samaritan. And I see that Samaritan don't confess, he acted. Because then I discovered that James began to say, anything you confess, you don't confess. So without action, he is dead. Faith without action is dead. And Jesus is now saying his action also. Samaritan was acting. Feed me when I was naked is action. Naked, I mean feed when I'm hungry is action. No, clothe me when I'm naked is action. Visit me in hospital is action. Everything is action. And now you are telling me just to confess and come to church. Me, I did it for myself. Oh. So when people are saying salvation, just confess in your mouth and so that, okay, make you they talk your own. Me, I'm going to do the way Jesus does it. That's why when you see Christians here, they don't just confess, they are active. They are acting. Everybody's acting. That is how to work out your own faith in our own understanding. Nobody say you are not smoking and not drinking, no. But why are you bringing the justice, the nature of God on daily basis? Who are you feeding? Who are you clothing? Who are you visiting? Who are you raising up? Because the Samaritan story, somebody was down and he reached down, bound down to raise them up. How many people are you raising up? Help me welcome my princess so she don't come. That's Pastor Bose there. Princess, you are looking even more beautiful than 20 something years ago when we met. You are not growing up, you are growing down. She's going minus. Where was I? Defense. Okay. So if you want to know man of God, look for, judge him by how much he's pursuing. Judge him by how much he's fighting for justice. Justice by how much justice is executed. How committed he is to promotion of justice. But if you are going to judge them by sitting seat or what they call it, sitting capacity, yeah. If you are going to judge them by sitting capacity, me I know they will, because God know they too. And if you are going to judge them by miracle worker, and then we are going to find one that is called Jesu Oyinbo Jesu or what? Yeah, Jose Oyinbo or Olumba. Those also do miracles. And if you go to India, you highly find a lot of those miracle workers. It's not by miracle workers, because Jesus said people will do miracles by name and I'm not there. But justice, truth, equity, righteousness, that is just the nature of God. God has love, and God is love. Okay? Okay, can you read it?
Yes. They don't hide behind their pulpit when justice is ridiculed in their society.
This is what is happening in our country, in our continent. All pastors, in fact, it's almost like it's a bad thing for you being a pastor and a man of God to speak about injustice in the society. Men of God don't speak. They can pray when you come to pray to kneel down before them in their church. But to speak against injustice in the society, to raise your voice for righteousness, it's like it's a bad culture in our country. We don't even know it is the calling of a man of God. Men of God don't even touch those things. They say, I will just pray. But it's the direct opposite of the nature of God. God is saying, raise your voice. Do not keep quiet. For justice, righteousness, equity. And it is the culture today is the direct opposite. You don't say anything. How can God be saying raise your voice and don't keep quiet? And you are saying you better don't talk. So people are just against God. As if they are intentionally just going their separate ways from God. Jesus himself took a whip and raised his voice. Everywhere, you Pharisee, woe unto you. He raised his voice. Oh, I'm wondering why he didn't lose his voice. And we are saying you shouldn't talk. Just, God knows, leave it. We are just performing the opposite of God's demand. We even think that the more you are not talking, the more you are more righteous. But not in God's eyes. God's eyes is that the more you raise your voice, the more you're on God's side. Because you are carrying out God's nature. Yes?
They become the moral conscience, the guidance and custodians of justice.
So you see, that's why in God's eyes, people like who raise their voice like this, Tai Sholare, Gani Faweime, Nigeria, all these people, they command more respect in the spirit realm than people who just preach and don't do anything. Because faith without works is dead. So our own call, every one of us, is to stand for justice so much that our position will be so much known, we will become the moral conscience in that particular area and field where we are. We will become the guardians, we are the guiding light for justice, for truth, for equity, for righteousness. We are going to be custodians of these values. Okay?
Not simply in the four walls of the church, but in the society.
Because in the society, that's where the needs are. Not in the four walls, the needs are in the society. Okay, keep on going.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
So a human being who is God's representative cannot. There is no way you can carry God in you, and you will just say injustice doesn't matter, and you will be at peace with injustice. You will be comfortable with injustice. You cannot carry God's nature, because God's nature is about justice. And so there is no way you can be tolerant with injustice. That's why injustice anywhere is a threat to justice anywhere. And if you are for God, you will fight for justice everywhere.
Factor number 2, causes of grievances. Next.
God's grievances, God's dissatisfaction.
Lack of just judgment. When there is no advancement in righteous judgment, it frustrates the heart of God. Judgment does not necessarily relate to the judiciary system.
Judgment here is talking about right actions. Right judgment, sound judgment. It's not just talking about court system. It could include that, but it's talking about making sure that the right actions are taken in regards to anybody that is being deprived of it. What belongs to people, making sure that people get it. What people have rights for, either spiritually or legally, that people get it. Okay?
Next. Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are.
Do you get it? Let me repeat it. Justice will not be in any society. Justice will never reign in any country, in any society, until people who are not affected by that injustice and lack of justice begin to fight for justice for everybody that lacks it, as well as if it affected everybody. So it means that justice and the fight for justice must become a culture of everybody. Everybody must begin to fight against injustice. Then justice will reign in that society. But as long as in the society only people who are being disenfranchised, only people who are affected by injustice are fighting for themselves, that society will never be just. But we must have a culture whereby everybody knows what is wrong and is calling a spade, what is wrong, that is wrong, and fighting against injustice no matter who it pertains to. So for example, let's say you are an Igbo person and injustice is being perpetrated against you. So it doesn't matter if I'm Igbo or not. It doesn't matter if I'm Hausa or not, or anybody. Justice must be our unifier. That we, anywhere there is injustices, we all raise our voices and fight against it, against injustice. So justice would never reign in any society until those who are unaffected by that injustice are as outraged about the injustice as those that are affected. I think you got it now.
Yes.
Beautiful stuff. That is what we mean by value systems. What determines your action is not that you are affected or you are not affected. It's not self-interest. It is value system. What determines your action is not either it's painful to you or it's painful to you, it affects you, no, but it's your belief system, value system that you are molded with. Can you imagine if our society, that's why I say we need 10,000 to start with civil societies, NGOs, to be able to establish this consciousness in the society. And we need 1 million in Nigeria. So that this consciousness of justice will permeate the whole society. Okay?
Judgment refers to a sound mind. When there is no sound mind in a society, people don't think straight. They are perverted in their thoughts.
When there is no sense of justice, that everybody is fighting for justice in a society, there is no sound mind. And when there is no sense of justice like that, then people have perversion of their thoughts. They are perverted in their thoughts. They don't think straight.
Compromise in their judgments. Their thinking and their decisions don't always follow the natural flow of logic, because the minds of ordinary people are polluted by the culture of their land.
And that's why we must start with the church. In our country, in our continent now, even the church doesn't have any sense of justice. Justice is not the culture of the church even. So how can it be the culture of the society? Go ahead.
Next. The dictionary meaning of judgment. It is their ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions. Lack of judgment only happens in a society where the value systems have been compromised. When that happens, God is frustrated.
So justice, judgment is the ability to make considered decisions. All factors are considered. All aspects are considered. All people involved interests are considered. So when a decision is being made and passed, having considered all partners, all what do you call them? Not partners, all people involved, all those involved, all interests. When that decision is based on all interests being considered, we say judgment has been done. You get it? Nobody is abused. No one person's interest is violated. But when that is not done, God is offended, and God is frustrated.
For there is but one essential justice which cements society, and one law which establishes this justice. This law is right reason, which is the true rule of all commandments and prohibitions. Whoever neglects this law, whether written or unwritten, is necessarily unjust and wicked. Marcus Tullius Cicer.
Do you get it? So that there is no justice in any society without dealing with the value system, right reasoning, which is the true rule of all commandments and prohibitions. So, common sense. Justice is based on common sense, right thinking, healthy, sound mind. Whenever this law is neglected, sound mind, then wickedness reigns, injustice reigns. Yes.
Next.
Sound mind.
Factor number 3, causes of grievances. Next. Truth is ridiculed. When God doesn't see men to stand in defense of the truth, when men allow other people,
when there are no men in the society that are standing for the truth, when there are no men in the society that are fighting for truth, that's why we must have social organizations like NGOs, social groups, and activists who are fighting for the truth. When there are no men like this, truth will be ridiculed in that society. So the more men we can raise to fight for truth, the more prevalent truth becomes. The less men are fighting for truth, the more truth is ridiculed. That's why that series on the truth, is being ridiculed now because it's the least watched out of all my series. People don't even know the importance or essence of truth because they are coming from societies where truth doesn't mean anything. Okay? Truth is ridiculed.
Truth is ridiculed when men allow other people to ridicule, laugh, and jeer at the truth.
If you go to Nigeria and say, why are you doing this? They will say, Nigeria. This is Nigeria. You're Igbo. You're coming from. And that is prevalent. Any little thing you try to correct, there's You see, truth is ridiculed when men are allowed to laugh, jeer, and just say, laugh it away. You are not saying, yeah. Truth is not being elevated to a height of honor. People just think it's conditional. That's why there's no order. No order in those kind of societies.
Truth is ridiculed when truth had become like a football that is kicked and tossed around by passers-by.
Yeah. Everybody is just saying, that's your own opinion. This is my own opinion. You think this, I think this. Relative truth. It's like football. You say you think this, I think this. Everybody is just.
That brings sorrow to God's heart.
Okay.
Next.
So those 4 things, never forget them. That's what we live for. And that's what defines a personality. Truth, righteousness, justice, and equity. Yeah.
Let the first act of every morning be to make the following resolve for the day. I shall not fear anyone on earth. I shall fear only God. I shall not bear ill will toward anyone. I shall not submit to injustice from anyone. I shall conquer untruth by truth. And in resisting untruth, I shall put up with all suffering.
Mahatma Gandhi. Go back.
Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah. Now, you see people who are personalities. You understand why they are personalities now? They know they are not Christians, but they know the principles. Truth and justice. Fighting against injustice. This is what defines a man. These are things that define a man. 1, justice. 2, truth. 3, equity. 4, righteousness. It's all through history. It's God's standard. These are what define the mind. Not money. Not crowd. But your ability to stand and live for the truth, justice, at the cost of life even. Fearing only God. Yes.
The state of Israel is that truth was not only ridiculed, truth had fallen in the streets.
Is that not the state of our own nation now? That's why Europe and America is developed, because they stand for it. I mean, truth is legislated in the law. Either you are a believer or you don't believe, they maintain a standard of truth. That's why there is a standard of order and growth and civilization and development. Okay?
Isaiah 59, verses 14 to 16. In keeping silent about evil, in bearing it so deep within us that no sign of it appears on the surface, we are implanting it, and it will rise up 1,000-fold in the future. When we neither punish nor approach evildoers, we are not simply protecting their trivial old age. We are thereby reaping the foundations of justice from beneath new generations.
Who?
Alexander
Solzhenitsyn. Let me explain to you what that means. Alexander Solzhenitsyn is saying, anytime we are silent about evil, and anytime we bury justice, and we just cover it. Any evil that we just neglect and cover, we bury and plant it. We are not just protecting somebody, that it will rise up 1,000-fold in the future to punish us. That evil that we neglect, that evil that we became silent about, that evil that we buried, will arise 1,000 times to punish us. When we decide not to punish the evildoers, but to cover for them, trying to say, oh, well, maybe they are too old, or maybe, giving excuses, that way we are actually destroying the foundation of justice. You see, people understand that there's nothing higher than justice and truth. And that's why they say, fight against evil, fight against injustice, because that injustice you protected now will come to hurt you 1,000 times more in the future. Nothing higher than these things. That's why these are God's standards. Fighting and standing. Personalities. These are personalities. Personalities will stand and fight for justice, for equity, for truth, and for righteousness. That's how God defines a man. And that is who a man is in God's eye. Anybody who lives for these things. That's the kingdom. That's what Jesus meant by seek ye first the kingdom. And all righteousness, all other things shall be added to you. Yes.
Factor number 4, causes of grievances. When equity is squeezed out of public square, what is equity?
God is grieved when equity, God is grieved when equity is squeezed out of the public square. Out of the public square, that means out of the society, out of the daily life of the people. Yes. What is equity? Equity is a little bit different from truth and justice and righteousness. So what is equity?
It is the fairness and impartiality.
Is conducting your dealings on the basis of fairness and impartiality. Conducting all our communications, all our relationships, all our businesses on the basis of fairness and impartiality. That is what equity means.
Next. God cries out of frustration for men. 1. When fairness disappears from the public discourse of any nation.
When there is no fair game, no fair play.
When partiality replaces impartiality.
Not just people cry, God cries. Yep.
Those who are men in God's eyes. Okay, those who are men in God's eyes would live and die for the promotion of equity in their society.
Believe it. That's why we must have thousands of organizations fighting for these things.
When a society begins to lack such men, it brings sorrow to the heart of our King.
And it's not popular. If you see any society that is underdeveloped, they lack equity. And then there are no men fighting for it. They lack justice and there are no men. There are just few people. Everybody is living their own lives. Everybody is minding their own business. Everybody is too busy with their own problems. That is why there is backwardness. That is why there is lack of justice. That is why people suffer. That's why there is lack of development. That's why there is lack of growth. That's why there is lack of civilization in those societies.
Factor number 5, causes of grievances.
The grievances in God's heart. We are talking about God's grievances.
Where it is popular to practice evil as others, it means real men have disappeared from that society. Is your society getting to that place? Can you hear the clarion call?
Let's go back to the Isaiah. Well, all these points are coming from that Isaiah in the beginning. Isaiah 42, slide 1 or 2 in the beginning. Okay, this, it's talking about, and he who departs from evil makes himself a prey. So it means that what is popular is practicing evil. So if you now come out and say you will not do it, you become a prey. That's the last point we're now saying. That's number 5 thing we're saying. Okay, let's go back.
Where it is popular to practice evil as others, it means real men have disappeared from that society. Is your society getting to that place? Can you hear
To go and eat national cake. That's what we call it.
Can you hear the clarion call from heaven telling you to arise and be the man of God, the man God is looking for?
God is looking for people who are going to make injustice, unrighteousness rather unpopular, who are going to make evil unpopular, who are going to raise their voice for truth, righteousness, equity, and justice.
A true revolution of values will soon cause us to question the fairness and justice of many of our past and present policies. A true revolution of values will soon look uneasily on the glaring contrast of poverty and wealth.
You see, the revolution we need is the revolution of values. I've always been saying the value system is what we need. Value system. Value system, value system.
Martin Luther King.
Yeah, value system, revolution of value. Okay, go ahead.
Are you a man in God's definition? Have you ever placed yourself under God's microscopic eyes?
Okay, stop. That's for every one of us. Let's use those 4 qualities to judge ourselves. Are you a fighter and a promoter of justice, equity, truth, righteousness? Are you known for that? Not by men, but by God. Is that what your whole life is all about? What are the organization and structures you have set up to promote these ideals? How are you pushing for them? Okay, keep on reading.
Have you examined?
I want you people to answer those questions, but a bit later. Let's finish this first.
I take it from beginning.
Okay.
Have you ever placed yourself under God's microscopic eyes? Have you examined yourself according to his standards and judgment? Does he call you a man? Is he satisfied with you? Or could it be that God looks at you and fails to see a man, only a bunch of flesh full of self and missing out on the purpose for his or her creation? What does God see, think and feel when he looks at you? What does God see, think and feel when he looks at you? Have you ever thought about what could be God's heartbeat? What gets him excited? What frustrates him? Next. We tend to think that God doesn't struggle with frustrations and anger, but he comes out plain to us that one of his major points of frustrations is when there is no man, or when there is no man.
Who does God call a man? Man that fights for justice, truth, righteousness, and equity. Yeah. Go ahead.
Next. Every one of us was created to carry out justice, judgment, truth, equity on the earth, in different spheres of life, in various professions, or in diverse gifting, because God's nature must be reflected on the earth. Next. Few will have the greatness to bend history itself, but each of us can work to change a small portion of events. It is from numberless diverse acts of courage and belief that human history is shaped. Each time a man stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy, and daring those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance.
Now, this quotation should help you to justify my strategy. My strategy for 1,000 and 10,000 and eventually 1 million social organizations, NGOs, just organizations that will be fighting for justice on different levels and different agenda, different topics, when there will be a lot of those organizations like that, voices, just like we are doing now with tithe and offering, just like we are doing now in social media, just like we are doing now against the religious cabals. With the more voices like that we're able to raise up, see what happens. Few will have the greatness to bend history itself. Only few of us will be able to single-handedly, change a whole nation. But when we are many of us who can do little there, see what will happen. But each of us can work to change a small portion of event. So you have a burden for women, you have a burden for children, you have a burden for youth, you have a burden for businessmen, you have a burden for pastors, you have a burden for churches. Everybody's burden is represented and being pushed. So these are creating ripple effects, movements. Can you imagine when we have 10,000 of such organizations creating ripples? No matter how much darkness we have in Africa and Nigeria, if we can have enough people and enough ripples being created, that is how we overcome darkness. Okay, it says each time, okay, it is from numberless, this kind of many, plenty, diverse acts of courage. Because that's what people who stand for righteousness do. Who stand for justice, that's what they do. People, these pressure groups, that's what they do. It's out of courage and belief that human history is shaped, you see. All civilization that we are seeing now, development that we are seeing, is because there are thousands of people who are having the little courage to change something where they are. That is how the civilization we have today is built. Each time a man stands up for an ideal, you stand up in your own way where you are. All of us stand up, each person stands up where he is for an ideal they believe in. What are ideas? These are value systems. Justice, righteousness, equity, truth. Each time a man stands up for these ideas or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and then crossing each other, each ripples are crossing each other from a million different centers of energy, and daring those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression. I'm talking of Nigeria.
Yes.
The mightiest walls of oppression and resistance.
Oh.
Who say we cannot change Nigeria?
Very simple. Very simple.
You see the strategy?
Yes.
Simple, right?
Very simple.
You see, the strategy is clear. And when I'm talking about that, I'm going to change Nigeria. I know how to do it. People think this guy just lost it. But I know exactly what I'm talking about. We are going to do it. Yes. Because I see it clearly. And this is it right there for you to see. Okay, let's go.
It doesn't matter that we claim to belong to him if his nature is not being manifested in us. If we
say we are Christians without manifesting justice, righteousness, truth, and equity, Christian, what God are we representing? Because our God is a God of justice, He's a God of equity, He's a God of truth, He's a God of righteousness. So if you don't manifest those qualities, we just manifesting religiosity. Go to sing in church, bring offering, tithe, jump up and down, and then you don't come out and manifest justice, truth, equity, righteousness. You just have religion, you don't have God. If you have God, you will manifest those things.
It doesn't matter what we claim to belong to him.
It doesn't matter that we claim.
It doesn't matter that we claim to belong to him if his nature is not being manifested in us. If we claim to know him, let's reveal him. If we say we are his servants, let's carry him. As long as there is one person suffering an injustice, as long as one person is forced to bear an unnecessary sorrow, as long as one person is subject to an undeserved pain, the worship of God is a demoralizing humiliation.
And that's what people are doing in our countries. We go to church to worship God every day. Meanwhile, in the society, look what is happening. People are suffering injustice, we don't even care. We are passing by and we are saying we are going to church. Contradiction. Demoralizing exercise. In the society, people are being forced to bear unnecessary sorrow, and we are going to church to sing and to dance. We're learning new steps in church. People in the society, we come out of church and we pass by people who are being subject to undeserved pain, but we are going to dance and sing and jump down, up and down. What is that rubbish? Yes.
Joseph Lewis. Next. Just imagine how frustrating God could be. After spending all of his resources to create all of us, millions and billions, and yet not to find anyone to stand tall when he most needs them.
You see God? That's God's state of mind. Sorrow, sad. Because he has put so much resources in all of us. There is nobody here without any potential resources. And then you are not using it to advance his purposes. When he needs you to stand for him, you are not. And you are still praying to God to come and do it. That's what pastors are doing, churches are doing. We are saying, God, come and save Nigeria. God, come and send justice. God, come and... So what did I give you aid for? What about brain? What about capacity? What about talent? Read that again.
Just imagine how frustrating God could be. After spending all of his resources to create all of us,
he put all that in us,
millions and billions, and yet not to find anyone to stand tall when he most needs them.
Because we are supposed to be representing him. How? By standing for justice, righteousness. And Jesus told us, I was naked, I was hungry. That's justice, righteousness, equity. That's what he counts. That's what matters to him. Okay?
Next. Lack of sound mind and judgment is a matter of frustration and disillusionment to God. If God is saying he doesn't have men with sound mind and judgment, he is referring to you. He is not just addressing the preachers. He is obviously talking to you to do something about it.
All of us.
If God is so concerned about the state of truth in the society, that should concern us all. You can stop corruption.
Or any other evil. All of us.
Truth can be proclaimed. Truth can be defended. Can you start a movement in your land that will encourage men and women to begin to think, to begin to make sound judgment and informed decisions?
That's what we have to do, guys. All of us have to start our own movement. It might be in different forms, but think of what you could do. We've got to stand and create a structure for ourselves, every one of us, each one, to advance and promote truth, justice, righteousness, and equity. In your own way. Maybe among homeless children, maybe among widows, maybe among foreigners, maybe among the poor, maybe among students, maybe among women, maybe among, just anybody that is lacking justice and fairness. Yeah.
Will you bring illumination to your people?
At least wake people up to the awareness of these things. That is what it means to be a Christian. Living for the kingdom.
Will you facilitate understanding amidst those whom you live with? When was the last time your heart was troubled that truth is being ridiculed where you live? The heart is crying for people. The earth is crying for people who make sound judgment and informed decisions. When God speaks about equity, God is not referring to the leaders of the land or the elites this time around.
Because everybody is thinking that only the politicians are the culprits. But he's talking about each one of us.
He is actually talking about how ordinary citizens of the land relate to each other in fairness and impartiality. Questions for you. What about starting an NGO? What about launching a campaign? What about joining a pressure group? What about teaching this in schools, colleges, tertiary institutions? When God says he doesn't see a man, what then does he see? Biomasses. Who are biomasses? When people don't fully put into use their human potentials.
They are biomasses.
When men and women that don't bother to think.
When people don't think, they are biomasses. When people don't fulfill their potentials, they are biomasses. And that's why we need to set them free. And churches is keeping them like this, so that they don't think, they will remain biomasses. So that they don't totally manifest become who they could be, but they will be carrying water and carrying bag and Bible and and juice for men of God. That's how they are kept in bondage. Yeah.
Men and women that don't bother to notice things that are out of order.
They are biomasses.
People who are indifferent about the happenings around them.
Those are biomasses.
Men and women that don't respond with solution to the challenges of their era.
Those are biomasses. Can you imagine? We live in the world of biomasses, and it's our duty to convert them and make them to become personality. When they become personality, when they begin to live for something, that when they begin to think, when they begin to totally fulfill what God has created them for, when they begin to notice things that are out of order, when they begin to they stop being indifferent, when they begin to act about everything in their era, when they begin to act in favor of justice, truth, equity, and righteousness, when they begin to fight against injustice.
God does not call every human a man. People might be giving birth, eating and drinking, having fun, but yet, when they don't live for what they were created for, they remain biomasses.
So it's not because you have two legs and you have children or husband and wife. Dogs and goats are also doing the same thing. But you are a human being, you are a man in God's eye when you're living for justice, for equity, for righteousness, for truth, when you are fulfilling what you are created for, when you are bringing the will and desires of God to pass on a daily basis.
It is not enough to have a body to be qualified as a man. Animals too have bodies, give birth to children, but we don't call them men. What qualifies a person to be called a man according to God? The ability of the individual to live by the standard and values of heaven. They reflect love, they reflect care, they reflect kindness. These are qualities of heaven.
This is the, where is the Arrête Truman? Is it you want it? Or
Yes,
you want? This one, Truman, yeah. Okay.
Our challenge today, when we become quiet at the collapse of value system in our nation,
we are in trouble. So tell yourself that you will never be quiet anymore. Yeah. No, I mean, you don't need to. That is church mindset. No, say to yourself. Okay?
justice suffers when men refuse to stand firm for what is right. The Lord needs us. God is calling. Will you answer?
Well, that's it. So, let's give the Lord a last one. Help us.